What is up, summoners? Half Tilt here with another video, and today we have some huge news in the developer's note. So this was just released a few hours ago, and there's some pretty big things in here. Along with all the other news lately, we've got new transmogs coming out, which most of them look pretty awesome. As well as the Summoners War MMO has been announced, which is pretty exciting, end of 2020, possibly into 2021. We'll see how that goes, but it's basically supposed to take place like 7 years before Summoners War Sky Arena, this game. So that's really exciting, something to very much look forward to at the end of the year. But this video, today, we are talking about this developer's note, the World Arena Season 12 improvements. There's some pretty juicy stuff here. If you haven't read this already, I skimmed through it a little bit ago myself before making the video, and I'm keeping an open mind about it. Right? To me, it's a step in the right direction. There is by no means this should be the end of it, and I really hope that Com2uS still has some other improvements on the table that they're discussing at this time, not just waiting to see how this one goes. But so we'll go over the gist of the breakdown here. And I want to know, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on these changes? Do you think this is for the better? Do you think it's for the worse? Is it going to make your experience better in the RTA? It's for me, I think it's a very positive. It's a very big step in the right direction. Like I said, though, there's still more that I would like to see, but I think this is a huge first step, especially the end part of this that we will cover. But the one thing that we're going to talk about first, that's mentioned here first, is a violent rune change. Now, this is only in RTA. This does not apply anywhere else in the game, only in the World Arena. So they did a bunch of internal testing here. They outlined some of the tests they did, looking at, basically they're trying to balance procs between both teams, right? So that if one team has 4 monsters with violent runes on them, and the other team has 4 monsters with violent runes on them, that one team is not out-procking the other, like 9-4 or 16-7 or some outrageous number, right? They're still, at the end of all this, they're still limited to just 1 proc per turn. Okay, so units that gain a new turn through their passives or through their abilities will reset that proc chance still. But they looked at some things at nerfing teams as a whole, and what they kind of settled on here is basically changing the activation chance after a monster procs. So they ran a bunch of tests. You can see a current service version versus test version here, how things in the end kind of evened out quite a bit more. You see a lot less disparity overall, and a lot less overall activations of violent runes through their tests. So their tests were done. They did 50 turns within 50 matches where all monsters were on violence. So pretty consistent sample, consistent test run, and a decent sample size. The more you run it, the more even the numbers seem to work out. But what they've done is made it so the default 22% chance is there. So if a monster on your team procs, okay, now that monster goes down to a 17% chance to proc. Okay? Well, sorry, your whole team. Your whole team goes down to a 17% chance to proc, whereas the other person actually gains that 5%. So they now have a 27% chance. So if 3 or 4 of your monsters go first, and your first monster procs, the rest of your monsters have a lower chance to actually proc. Until the opponent procs, in which case then it brings that 5% back again. So the way they discuss it here is 27% is the highest chance that you can get to proc. So it'll only ever tick up once. But you can go down twice. So if you proc twice before your opponent procs, it'll go from 22-22 to 17-27, and then to 12-27. And then it'll stay at that 12 and 27 until the opponent procs, and then it'll go back to the 17 and 20. I believe 17 and 22. I'll be curious to see how that actually works in consecutive procs from one side, and then trying to balance that back out again. So that's a pretty big change to violent runes overall. personally, I love it. Okay, because I'm about a C2 rank in RTA. If I put in the time to do more matches, I could probably hit C3 pretty easily. G1 probably is still a little bit out of my range. Potentially doable if I played enough matches. But one of the reasons why I didn't play a lot of matches is because it would just got infuriating going up against opponents who just out-proc me 4-1. So it's nice to see that they've recognized that that is an issue, and hopefully this change will really balance that out so that, maybe I'll get out proc 3-2 instead of 4-1. That's a lot easier to swallow in a match. So the RNG aspect is still there. The power of Violent Runes is still very much there. It's just evened it out a bit more, and I think that's exactly the type of thing that they needed to do with that, and I'm really happy to see it. Really happy to see it. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like this? Is this a huge nerf to Violent Runes? Or is this just a balancing of play to take a little bit of RNG out of the equation and make the results a little bit more about your drafts and picks and bans and your choices during the battle of what to attack and when and what skills to use? So let me know your thoughts below. I'm really curious to hear what everybody is thinking on this. From what I've seen so far, there's a lot of mixed reviews. Some people are really hating on this. I think people that have spent a lot of money on their Violent Runes probably are going to take this a little bit harder than those of us who are a little bit more on the free-to-play side of things, or have only spent a very little bit and not invested a ton into the runes. And that's understandable, right? That is 100% understandable. I don't think that they need to nerf Violent Runes beyond this. I wouldn't want to see them nerfed beyond this. But in the end, the gameplay and our personal experiences are going to be what comes out. There was no change to Violent Runes in any other aspect of the game. So nothing in Siege or Guild Wars or Arena defenses or anything like that. So those are still going to go absolutely crazy. And, there's arguments on both sides of that. It's absolutely frustrating to lose to one of those defenses when a Theo just procs 4 times till something's dead, or Perna procs 4 times till something's dead. It drives everybody nuts. But that almost needs to be there. Otherwise, defenses would very, very rarely ever get a win. So it's flip sides of the coin, right? 6 one, half dozen of the other. So that's it on Violent Runes. The other big thing they've changed is the victory point system. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see if this kind of breaks down that 1900 wall. Kind of what they've done is basically they've tried to make the points a little bit tighter based on the rank you're at versus the rank you're fighting, right? So they've lowered some of the points that you lose if you're a high rank player and you lose to a lower rank player, as well as they've changed how many you lose if you lose to somebody that's actually a higher rank as well, which I think is, again, a step in the right direction. They've made it pretty easy. They've made the fighter and challenger ranks pretty volatile, I think, with the amount of points that you can gain or lose there. 20, 15, and 10 that's pretty big, right? So the same points as if someone is around the same points level as you, right? Let's say we both have 1,600 points in RTA and we fight each other. The winner's going to gain 15, the loser's going to lose 15. If you're in the fighter or challenger ranks, or 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11 from Guardian 3 through Conqueror 1. Whereas the max would be basically if you're a Guardian 3 fighting a Conqueror 3 and you lose, you're probably going to lose the max points, which I believe would be 7 on the Guardian 3 side, and the Conqueror 3 is going to gain the 12. I believe that's how this works. That's what I'm seeing here. So that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out, and if it kind of breaks down some of those walls that have always been a big challenge in the game. I don't know that it will, but I think it's a step in the right direction. They're recognizing that there's an issue there, that people have been complaining now for quite a while, pretty much since they made the point system change last time. People have been having their complaints because these walls become very difficult to surpass. Personally, I've never hit that 1900 wall, so I haven't had to quite deal with that. I come close to it and I just get knocked back down again. But that's because you start facing people of way higher rank than you, and yeah, the disparity in rune quality and everything is just too much to overcome sometimes. That's where you need all those violent procs, I guess. The other change that they made is the cutoff points for Guardian 2 and Guardian 3, because originally they were the same, right? At 1700, G1 to G3, all you had to do was be over 1700, and then it was just a matter of how many points you had from there. Personally, I don't think this is going to make a difference at all, because I'm pretty sure last season 1900 was still, that was around C3 to G1, somewhere in that area, right? Like you're still well beyond 1900 points if you're getting into G2 and G3 anyway. So I don't think that's going to make really much of a difference at all. Maybe in the very early, like the first few days of the season when those top players are grinding out their early wings and pushing up into those higher points, then they'll start. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference in the end. I really don't. So moot point on that change. So those are the big changes that we're expecting to come for Season 12. As it will say down here, Season 12 is being delayed until I believe it was February 3rd. February 6th, sorry. Season 12 will start on February 6th. They're actually going to run another special league at the conclusion of this one here on January 19th. It'll start January 23rd, and it'll run to February 5th. And basically that's going to be with these changes in place, so that we can kind of get a feel for like how the violent system is going to be changing. So this patch is actually going to be dropping here really soon with the violent changes and the point changes. The point changes probably won't see too much of, but the violent changes we'll be able to get into, especially it's just going to be like a normal RTA, but in a special league from how they've positioned it here, just a normal battle. So it won't be 4-star or pre-ban or anything like that. It's just going to be your normal RTA. So you can get in there and test that out, see how it's going to be, and before we jump into the actual season. It's almost like a PTR, if you will, for it. So that's cool. Now, the big change, and personally, this is the one thing I might even be more excited about this than the violent change. Because I feel like if anything is going to start, like their big thing is that they need to get more players into RTA. They need to get more people doing it, and people of like earlier in the game to do it, and incentivize them to do it in a way. Now, I feel like this isn't the one fix all, not by any stretch of the imagination. I feel like this is still poised more at the mid to late game players, the end game players, and you might see some level of improvement in Siege and Guild War defenses and arena defenses as well, depending on the players that really want to do this content. Obviously, the really big whales out there don't really care about a lot of the rewards from that content, so they don't care about that, putting time into that anyway. They're just there to do the RTA. But for a lot of even higher end guilds that do a lot of RTA, but also, like to try to perform in Siege, you're probably going to see those defenses actually get a little bit stronger now because of this change. For early to mid game players, I don't think this is going to do really much at all to bring them in, but it's a step in that direction. It's a step to bring those end game players that don't care about RTA because they don't want to move runes off their Siege to maybe be able to do this. And so what they are doing, and this is supposed to be coming out in February, it's not coming out as part of this early special league in this update here, is they are basically going to have a different rune set. So you'll have a RTA, World Arena exclusive rune page where you can put runes on your monsters. These will be only for RTA, and then you can, again, it's runes that you own, right? They can be on any other monster, and they don't move back and forth between the two. Like, you're not going to be paying X amount of mana every time you go from RTA to PvE or any other content to move those runes back and forth. They're just basically, your runes can exist in two separate places. They can exist in your RTA box, and they can exist in your everything else box at the same time. So I think that's awesome, because I know myself personally, I've got a lot of monsters runed up for RTA, and I've got some runed up for siege. My runes are kind of segregated, they're split between the two a bit. So now I can put all of my best runes on all of my best RTA units, and I don't have to worry about if I'm going to use those monsters in siege or not, because now I can take the runes on my siege defenses and build the siege defenses out of the monsters that I truly belong there, rather than some RTA specific mods, and make a much stronger siege defense, guild war defense, arena defense, dungeon teams, labyrinth teams, etc. Right? Like that content will still exist as a whole, and RTA will be a thing. So you're essentially going to have two separate monster boxes that you can sort through. So your RTA monsters will be in one box, and your regular will be in the other box. I think this is huge. I love this change. Absolutely love it. Again, I don't think this is the end all be all. I really hope they have some other things on the table that they're discussing still. Matchmaking being a huge one of those things. I think that's one of the really big things that keeps a lot of early to mid game players out of the RTA scene, is that those lower ranks are flooded with so many Smurfs down there who just don't belong in those ranks. And they're down there farming for points to get their transmogs, to get their wings, and then they climb back up and buy the nice wings when they've got a ton of points. But they can just sit down there and auto because their account's so much stronger. And, if you're a new player coming into that, and that's your experience, is just coming in and you don't even get a turn before you're wiped out, 20 out of 30 wings, what fun is that? If that's my first experience coming in, I'm not going to enjoy that content. I'm not going to come back to it. I might even not play the game anymore, depending how much time I've invested into the game. So that matchmaking, I think, is a big thing that needs to be addressed. Personally, I think your previous finish, like if you finish G3, then you should not be allowed in the following 2 seasons to play anyone more than 2 ranks below you. Your points might keep you at a fighter rank, but if you're queuing up and you're matching against somebody, you're still going to fight somebody that's a G2 or even a G1, right? You could look at it as a point disparity thing, but then you still have early season challenges. This way, even through your placement battles and early climb and everything, you're still matching up against people around your caliber, around your rank, around your level. If you're a G2, you would fight G1 C3 players. If you're a G1, you would fight G1 C3 C2 players, and C3 would fight C3 C2 C1 players, etc., right? So that people who are intentionally trying to drop rank, they're still going to be fighting the same tier of people. Now, I say about a 2-season lapse based on your finish, because someone might just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to take a season off and then I'll come back and farm Lobies the season after that. Well, it kind of holds you to your play a little bit, but you don't want to do it too long, because if you don't put in the effort and play, you might actually fall behind a lot of people, and you might not actually be in that rank anymore, and then it becomes a really poor experience for that player too, because now they're only facing people that are way stronger than them. So there needs to be a bit of balance there, but something like that I would really like to see, so that people are fighting people around their rank and have the chance to progress up, should they choose, or should they be able to. So rewards is another subject. The amount of points that you get from a win versus how many points items cost in the shop. You got to do a lot of wings, which in the current meta is a lot of time, unless you're just cleaving everything. And that amount of time for the rewards that you get just really isn't worth it to a lot of players. Like, a lot of us have limited time that we can play throughout the day, and there's already, guild battles, siege battles, labyrinth, dungeon farming, dimensional hole farming, scenario farming. There's all these things, arena to get points to build increase our glory towers. There's all these things that we already have to do in the game. So to find time, especially as an early to mid game player, to do something that isn't going to help you progress, isn't going to make your account better, isn't going to make your experience better, it becomes difficult. But at the same time, you don't want to add another chore to that list. Like, you put a Devilmon in the World Arena shop, now all of a sudden people feel like they have to do this. If it's a weekly Devilmon or a monthly Devilmon or a seasonal Devilmon, whatever it is, now people feel like they have to do at least enough to achieve that. Something cool that might be really cool, along with fixing the matchmaking, is you do your 10 placement battles and boom, you get a Devilmon. Win or lose, You do your 10, you get a thing. You know, maybe there's something put in there that you actually have to see the battle through, and you can't just queue up and then cancel out as soon as you hit the pick bands. Because a lot of people might just do that really quick, do their 10 tank and never come back and touch RTA again. Like, cool, it took me 3 minutes and I got a Devilmon. Thanks, ComToUs. There needs to be some form of confirmation or something that you actually participated in the match. You actually took the time to do it. You didn't auto it or whatever, right? Maybe even just take the auto feature out of RTA altogether. You can't just click auto or something. I don't know. Then you just get people sitting there waiting to time out. But I think they have to be really careful not to make it another chore on the list of everything else to do. Maybe along with the World Arena points, you get glory points, just like you would get from normal arena. Then you can buy things in the glory point shop as well, right? They're given out in the same ratios already. Like Conqueror gets 4 or 5, Conqueror and Guardian get 5, Fighter get 4, Challenger get 3 points for a win, right? Maybe you just add that on there so that you don't have to do your arena wings. You can do World Arena as well if that's your choice. And then all the rewards that are in the Glory Shop are available to you as well as the rewards in the World Arena Shop, should you choose to do that. And then I don't think you really even have to change the rewards so much in the World Arena Shop. Maybe lower the cost of some of the scrolls or the transmog stones a bit. I mean, the transmog stones are expensive for what they are. To get 5 stones and 60 points, that's a lot. That's a lot. Especially if you're fighting in the Challenger or Fighter ranks. You know, that's a lot of wins that you got to put together to do that. So it becomes infuriating when you're forced to do it for something. And you're not enjoying it. If you're enjoying it, then you're not being forced to do it because you enjoy doing it anyway, right? But if you're being forced to do it and you don't enjoy the content, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. It's a little toxic. So I hope there's still discussions. I hope there's more to come. I think this whole update as it's proposed is a huge step in the right direction. Thank you, ComToUs. You're listening to the community, obviously. You know, you take your time to do these updates, but if you're running all these tests and doing all these things to make sure that, you know, you're doing it right without disrupting things too much, especially in a negative way. And the gamer community, as it is in this day and age, you know, it's pretty volatile. You're never going to please everyone. And if to make a big change, you're probably going to upset a lot more people than just by making small changes incrementally over time. So I think this is a great first step. I hope to see more. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, hit the sub button, and supports the channel greatly. Come drop by twitch.tv/halftailgamer and join us for when we go live, and leave your comments below. I'm really curious what you guys think about this update. I want to see what you guys have to say, what you're thinking about it. If you've got any other suggestions or ideas that you would like to see ComToUs consider in regards to improving RTA experience even more that may or may not have been discussed. So anyway, hope you guys have a great one. Rock on, half tilt out.